Discovering Insert Wine Here. We love making new discoveries about wines, so we thought we would share some of that with you. We will be rolling out a new subscription series called Discovering Insert Wine Here. Each month, we will choose a wine to discuss and pair and do a live Zoom with our subscribers. Now, when I say wine, we will keep this simple, but it will be something that you can find locally or order. During our Zoom, you will learn about the wine, the style, and the region. Then we will taste, pair, and share our thoughts. I'll finish with the recipe to show you how simple making the dish can be. If you can't join us live, we will share the recording so you can watch it later. Discovering Insert Wine Here. So let's go on and we'll talk about the grazing board that we put together and then we'll talk about what everybody else is munching on. So when we put together the grazing board, I wanted to find things that would go with both buttery Chardonnays and with crisp, clean Chardonnays and with the gamut of things that run in between. We put together a crab avocado salad and then roasted chicken, which roasted chicken is one of my go-tos with a buttery Chardonnay. I love roasted chicken with a buttery Chardonnay. We did cantaloupe and mac and cheese, of course. I feel like mac and cheese and roasted chicken, that all goes beautifully with a buttery Chardonnay. But also the fat in those, if you had a crisp, clean Chardonnay, that fat would cut right through those nicely. We did some coconut shrimp, pulling up coconut notes maybe from different oaks that we might have. Cashews and lemon, dried apricots, pear and mango, dried pineapple, which I had left over from the other tasting. We did cucumber, which comes to something else down the list. We did dried fig and green apple. I did a peach caprese, trying to pull in those notes like of the stone fruit and yet having the richness of the cheese with it. I did some roasted grapes. I don't do those very often. And man, I should do this much more often because I'm not a big, I don't pop grapes on a regular basis, but put them in with a little bit of salt and a little bit of olive oil. Pretty delicious. We did some grilled fennel to go with this. There was also lime. We did a little, you could see down the bottom corner, it's a little butter poached lobster tail. So it was kind of fun. We did some pesto again for some bright notes. I put together some graham cracker crust and some of that lemon curd that could be like a single bite that were nice. Brie. We did a compound butter. I was going to do a butter board and I just didn't get that far. There, as you can see, there's a few other components on this grazing board, so I didn't manage to get that far. We did one bit of compound butter, and I used that with both. We had some brioche toast, but I also used it with the cucumbers. So you kind of get that something fresh and something rich at the same time, and then there's some thyme on there. So that was what we put together for our initial grazing board. What does everybody else have? So a couple of different things that we did. I said that we had done a tasting with Chilean coastal Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs a little while ago. And it was really fun. They sent us the small bottles and we learned a lot about these coastal Chardonnays. It's not something that typically you hear about from that country, but there is a wine guy down there that does a lot of writing. I can't remember who he writes for, but it's one of the major wine publications. And he was bound and determined to get word out about these Pinots and Chardonnays. So he had gotten a bunch of them together and we did a tasting. And some of the funny things that we put on this tasting board that I found went really nice with the Chardonnay, it was bananas, avocado, pineapple jam, and little koi butter, which were things that I wouldn't have thought of before. And we put them on there and they really went nicely with the Chardonnays. So it's kind of fun to do that pairing and taste these coastal influence, which they tended to be, for the most part, cleaner and brighter. But a lot of there's winemakers down there that like to use the oak on them too. So there's a little bit of oak influence on that. This tasting we did, it's kind of it's another fish stew, right? But we dressed it up a little bit. It's called Poke House. I think that's how you pronounce it. It is a French fish stew, and it's usually pretty rustic. And we did this with a Chablis Premier Cru that we had done a while ago. And it's pretty simple. We did rainbow trout in ours. There's a lot of other fish that they recommend, but that was what we were able to get. We did a bed of mushrooms with bacon and onions, and then a white wine sauce topped with butter sauteed spinach, sour cream and arugula. So you get those peppery notes in it. And it was really a delicious dish and a delicious pairing. It's on one of our older articles, I think. With a Lene Estate Chardonnay, and this one is actually from Oregon, and it's from the Yamhill Carlton AVM. And he has sold his vineyard now. I think that they're still calling it Lene, and someone else has taken it over. Yes. So we did a baked basmati rice with apple and saffron, and the apple and saffron really pulled out some beautiful notes in the wine. And then we did for our main dish, it was sea bass on white beans with cherry tomatoes and spinach, which was pretty simple, but is very delicious and came out really elegant. Another Oregon wine that we had that was a Chardonnay was from Utopia Vineyard, and they're in the Ribbon Ridge AVA in the Willamette Valley. And we did an aromatic salad. I went to find something that had bright aromas with cozy pork chops and apples. So you think about pork chops and apples and you get those savory notes, and they're very warm and fall-like, right? And that went beautifully with the wine, but then we also set it off with doing this citrusy salad. So I remember I got some kumquats for this. It was blood orange and avocado and kumquats with the citrus cardamom and rosewater dressing. So kind of pulled up different notes. The rosewater was something that they said you could get like a little bit of rose petal off of this, which I thought was kind of interesting. But so we did that. And the salad, and again, you have that balance between something that's bright and acidic and something that's really warm and cozy. And then this last one is one that we had done, and Cam, you probably were on this one too. It was a thing when we were doing with the French winophiles with Chablis. And they had sent us a bunch of samples. And this was actually a recipe that they asked if they could post it on their site for a little while. And I was super honored about that. So it was on their site for a little while. It's basically a butternut apple cider puree with seared scallops on top, and then a fennel apple salad. I think I sent you guys the recipe, and the recipe card was the one that I put for this one. The butternut squash puree is made from roasting the butternut squash with garlic, onions, ginger, and shallot in butter. And then it gets pureed with apple cider and sage and thyme. And then the scallops go on top of that. And the fennel salad on top has apples in it. And then there were crumbs of something that I put around it. And I'm not even sure what those were now. And it's the fennel. So rather than this being dill on there, that's fennel fronds. So it was a really delicious dish. And we paired that with a Premier Cru Vau de Vey Chablis that we had gotten from them. So any additional thoughts or inspirations? Have any of you visited like regions where they grow Chardonnay, or do you have a favorite Chardonnay, a favorite vineyard for Chardonnay? If you're interested in joining us, email me at robin@42aspens.com and I'll send you the details.